think it's time that we wrap up this really idiotic debate about whether Iran really had nuclear weapons, if they were planning to do bad things with their nukes. Maybe this Islamic Republic that just like executes people in their beds when they're injured for protesting actually really just wants to have nukes so they can stare at them. Maybe they didn't even really have any plans to build the nukes, although America needed its most sophisticated technology to go in and try and destroy a part of the nuclear abilities. I think it's time we just kind of finish it. Just end it, you know, because it's getting kind of annoying to listen to people out there who actually believe that the argument that America and Israel have just concocted Iran's nuclear abilities and that wasn't what was really going on. It's so uneducated and exhausting and stupid and incorrect. And who better to destroy a retarded argument than Coleman Hughes from the Free Press? I hope you all are familiar with the Free Press under Barry Weiss, kind of, I guess, at this point. Brilliant news editorial, really does high quality investigative journalism and opinion pieces. But they also have some great podcasters, Coleman Hughes being one of them. So succinct, so sharp. And he decided that it's time to take on this really stupid question and debate because the evidence is just so overwhelmingly against that retarded argument. I think we're going to break it down. But first, welcome to the Pushback. I'm Meira K. This is not the right word. I'm your host. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We really, really appreciate every single one of you. These are important times to be actually talking about the crazy things that are going on and to provide sane commentary. So if you're here and if you're supporting, I appreciate you tremendously. We're launching a daily show very soon, which is exciting. So wait for that announcement, and also an inner circle so that you can really be involved in the conversations behind the scenes, which are important and help support these kind of initiatives. But more on that later. Let's watch what's going on and what the Free Press has to say about all this.
I looked into it and I wanted to see if there was any country in the history of nuclear programs which had enriched uranium to 60%, that much uranium, like enriched however many grams of uranium Iran admitted to enriching just a few years ago, and not gone on to build a full nuclear.
Oh no, what's going on?
The answer was 0.
Okay. He's saying, quickly, I don't know why it keeps cutting out. He's saying, I wanted to check how many countries out there built out such sophisticated technology to be able to enrich uranium to 60% and then don't plan on building out nukes with it. And you'll be flabbergasted, absolutely flabbergasted to hear that the answer to that is 0. That it's 0, that there aren't actually countries who spend trillions, or if not billions, I don't actually know how much it costs, to build out nuclear abilities, tens of years in silence, dealing with sanctions across the spectrum and board of different countries, just to not actually have nuclear abilities, just to be able to say, yeah, we got 60% enriched uranium that we can do nothing with. Yeah.
There are 0 countries that have enriched that much uranium to 60% and then not gone on to create a bomb. So it's just, there's really no story you can tell where Iran has innocent motivations in its nuclear enrichment program.
Correct.
And yet, there are still many people who focus on the fact that we haven't proved that Iran is currently breaking out, right? Can you speak to this? Because there's certain people who say, well, unless the CIA comes to me with conclusive evidence that right now on March 3rd, Iran is breaking out to create its weaponized nuclear missile, there's no justification for action. What would you say to that?
I would say, wow, the CIA knows it's March 3rd. What happens if it's March 2nd? In other words, what happens if the CIA gets it wrong? I mean, the idea that we are going to wait until the Iranians are on the 1-yard line before stopping them from going into the end zone means you have an enormous faith in the ability of any intelligence community to detect the exact time that Iran will break out.
But more than that, if you have somebody, let's say you want to go buy a gun, and the guy walks into the shop to buy the gun, and the person says, hey, what you doing? What you planning on doing with this gun? And he says, oh, I'm planning to go and shoot at a lot of different people. Yeah, I like hunting humans for sport. So the guy in the shop says, okay, take the gun. And then calls the police and says, this guy came in and told me that he's fully intended on shooting people with a gun. He bought it. He's taken the gun out. But wait. I think we need to go to the school, be at the school, and see if he actually starts shooting to stop him. Let's just wait until he's there shooting already. What is the logic in waiting for Iran to have these nuclear abilities for us to then turn around and say, okay, now we need to do something about it? They're telling us that's what they want to do with it. That's what they're telling us. Honestly, this operation, the question shouldn't be, why is this operation happening right now? It's, why didn't it happen ages ago? That's the actual intelligent question here, is why in any reality you would allow Islamic radical psychopaths to have access to nuclear abilities. That's a question you need to present to Obama and to Biden, who are both absolutely idiotic in the agreements that they put together with Iran, because they were afraid of the ramifications of oil. But the question here is not if the CIA can figure out when they can press the button for the nukes to be triggered, but rather why it took so long, why we even got to a point where there would be a threat.
I mean, I think it's foolish. We obviously would never take that kind of risk, because you get it wrong, Iran has nuclear weapons, and then it's game over. And then you've got this theocratic regime committed to the destruction of one of our closest allies that yells death to America, that's killed and maimed over 1,000 Americans, that now has nuclear weapons. And then what does an American president say? Oops, I'm sorry, we got it wrong. I think what you want to do is you want to be more cautious, and you want to assess the evidence. And there's no doubt that Iran has had an active nuclear weapons program. I challenge anybody to bring the evidence that they haven't. This is not the Iraq situation where there was some hint that maybe Saddam was developing nuclear weapons. We weren't sure. We maybe had some intercepts. He was talking to his generals. There was a possibility. We look back into the early 1990s when he did an active nuclear program. Maybe he had it again. I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty around that. I think the evidence is overwhelming. The evidence, not just from Western intelligence, but from the International Atomic Energy Agency over the years, that Iran has been in flagrant violations of its non-proliferation treaty obligations. It has built these nuclear sites that have no economic value. It has a program, an actual program of weaponization. It has weapon scientists who've been working on weaponization for a number of years. It has sites at places like Parchin that are controlled by SBND, which was set up for the purpose of developing a nuclear weapon. And I mean, we can go on and on in this podcast if we had more time and just lay out the case. I think the problem with the president's rhetoric, and this, again, I just get back to that, it's undisciplined, is I think he often overstates unnecessarily, and things are imminent. They're going to happen tomorrow. We got to act now. I mean, they're not imminent. Iran's not going to imminently build a nuclear weapon, but Iran was back on the path to reconstituting the capabilities it needed to develop a nuclear weapon. And rather than waiting for it to finish those capabilities, I think the president rightly made the decision to first try diplomatic negotiations to get the Iranians to agree to stop. And then once it was clear they weren't willing to stop, to use military force to forestall the possibility of them developing those weapons.
I just want to say, I'm so grateful that the diplomatic discussions fell through, but we never needed to have them in the first place, because if you would have asked me, I could have explained the radical religious beliefs that these Islamists have, and that they were never, ever, 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 ever going to agree to not build out nuclear abilities, because to them it feels like a God-ordained gift sent to destroy the world. Brilliant, amazing, perfect, superb. How do you kill millions of infidels just like this? With nukes. Brilliant. Let's use their own weapons that they created against them. Yeah, that works perfectly. I could have told you that, but more than that, let's say that they weren't listening to me. The fact that there could have been a deal that we would have had in the future, potentially another stupid, retarded administration like Obama, then they just would have started rebuilding again, because these people's ambitions don't end. To me, it is just incomprehensible that people do not understand that these people actually intended on using their nuclear abilities for war. Here's the thing. I think people can't wrap their head around it because it's so apocalyptic and it's so crazy. It feels kind of like you're reading almost like an Alex Rider book, like a crazy book of somebody who's built out like a Dan Brown, like they're building out something to destroy billions of people. And it feels like that. It doesn't actually feel real. Unfortunately, it is real. It was real. They had nuclear scientists who were creating warheads specifically for war. Not for anything else. Anyway, so it's good news. It's good news for the Jews. It's good news for the world. It's good news for everybody. That this is now going to be a threat, hopefully, of the past. The Islamic regime are gone, their nuclear abilities. And hopefully Iran will be free and America and the Middle East can actually move on to dealing with the next stage of problems, which is Islamization without nuclear abilities. Yippee for that!